It was a night like any other, quiet, still, the kind of stillness that feels almost sacred. 14-year-old Clara had just said her prayers and read Psalm 91 with her mother, something they did every night before bed. Her room was peaceful, lit only by the warm glow of a bedside lamp. She placed her Bible down, kissed her mother goodnight, and whispered, "God is with me. I am not alone." That was the last time anyone ever heard her voice. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Clara's mother woke suddenly. No nightmare, no sound, just a strange, overwhelming urgency in her chest. She walked down the hallway, half dazed, until she reached Clara's room. The door was open, the bed was made, the window was wide open, and Clara was gone. No signs of struggle, no broken glass, just her silver necklace, the one she'd worn since infancy, lying on the floor, broken, and her Bible, still open on the bed, turned to Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Her father ran out into the cold night, barefoot, screaming her name. The neighbors joined in. Flashlights swept across the fields. Police dogs searched the woods. Nothing, no footprints, no clothing, not a single sign she'd ever left the room. It was as if she had been lifted out of the world. And then, something unexplainable happened. As her mother collapsed to her knees in the front yard, weeping and crying out to God, a brilliant white light streaked silently across the sky. Not a star, not a plane, not lightning, just light. Some believed it was a sign, others dismissed it. But for Clara's mother, it was the beginning of a divine mystery that would unfold over the next 17 years. For the first 72 hours, hope was stronger than fear. Volunteers combed through every inch of the forest. Helicopters circled overhead. Clara's photo flooded every corner of town. Her parents didn't sleep, didn't eat. They just prayed. God, if you're real, if you love us, show us where she is. But there was only silence. On the fourth night, something strange happened. Clara's mother was lying on the floor of her daughter's bedroom, clutching her pink sweater, inhaling what little scent remained. She hadn't moved in hours. Then, out of nowhere, she heard it. A soft cry. Not from outside, not from downstairs, from inside the room. It was Clara's voice. She sat up, her heart thundered in her chest. "Clara," she whispered. Silence. She looked around, trembling. The air felt thick, charged, like static. Then she heard it again. "Mom, I'm still here." The voice was faint, echo-like, as if it were coming from behind the walls. She screamed for her husband. He ran in, but by the time he arrived, the room was cold and quiet again. The police were called. They investigated for hours. Nothing. But that night changed everything. Clara's mother refused to believe her daughter was dead. She insisted, "She's here. I heard her. She's in this house. Or somewhere close. I felt it." People began to whisper that grief was making her delusional. But a few, just a few, started to believe something deeper was happening. That maybe Clara hadn't left. Maybe she'd been taken, somewhere we can't see. And that perhaps only God could bring her back. The days turned into weeks. The weeks into months. No leads, no witnesses, no ransom, no body. Just a home frozen in grief and a mother who refused to let go. She stopped answering the door. She stopped returning calls. She sat in Clara's room for hours every day, reading scripture aloud into the silence. Not for herself, for Clara. If she's trapped somewhere, if she can hear me, I want her to know God hasn't left her. Every night, she read Psalm 91. Every morning, she anointed Clara's bed with oil. She fasted, prayed, pleaded, but heaven was silent. People moved on. Search parties faded. The town grew quiet again. But inside that house, the battle never stopped. Her husband was breaking, slowly, quietly. The weight of holding his wife, holding the image of their daughter's face, became too much. One night, he whispered, "Maybe she's with God now. Maybe that's the only peace left." But his wife didn't respond. Instead, she walked to the window of Clara's room and spoke directly into the wind. God, you are the only one who can walk between the seen and the unseen. If she's still out there trapped, then send your angels, shake the heavens, speak, show me a sign before my faith breaks. And in that moment, just as she closed her eyes, a sound echoed in the room. Knock. Just one. From inside the wall. She turned slowly. The wall behind Clara's bed. The one no one had ever questioned. Her breath caught. The next day she would call a contractor. What they would find would defy every known explanation. The contractor arrived the next morning, skeptical but respectful. He had heard the rumors about Clara, about the cries, about the mother's unwavering faith, but he'd seen grief twist people's minds before. He expected nothing, just drywall, pipes, dust. He didn't expect a hollow echo behind the wall. "There's space back here," he said, frowning. He tapped again. Knock, knock, hollow. Within an hour, he had tools in hand. Clara's mother stood in the corner, arms crossed tightly, praying under her breath the entire time. The first layer came down. Dust poured out. Then insulation. Then something else. Wooden boards. Handmade. Old. A second wall. Built behind the first. The contractor hesitated. "Ma'am, this wasn't part of the original house." She stepped forward, heart pounding. "Take it down." He did. Behind that second wall was a hidden space, no bigger than a child's closet. Dark, cold, sealed, and inside it, a box, wrapped in aged, tattered fabric, tied with a rosary. The mother collapsed to her knees. Tears fell without restraint. She reached for the box slowly, as if afraid it might vanish. It was light, dusty. When she opened it, she found only two things inside: a small pink journal with the name Clara etched on the cover, and a note in Clara's handwriting. "I am not dead, but I am not free. God is still with me. Please don't stop praying." 17 years after she vanished, her voice returned. But how had she written it? When? From where? And what else was written in that journal? The journal trembled in her hands. Clara's handwriting was unmistakable. Curved letters, careful spacing, every page filled. Some entries dated, others blank but for single phrases that chilled her soul. The first entry was dated the night of her disappearance. "I don't know where I am. I can see my room, but no one sees me. I try to scream, but it's like my voice is made of smoke. There are others here, shadows. They whisper things I don't understand." Her mother dropped the journal, hands shaking. This wasn't a cry for help. It was a map. Through suffering, through time, through layers of unseen dimensions. She read on. "At night, the shadows come close, but they never cross the edge of the light. I started praying, and something changed. They don't like the name of Jesus." Another page. "An angel came to me last night. He didn't speak, but I felt peace. He pointed to the wall. I think I'm supposed to write. I don't know if you'll ever find this, but I believe you will, because you never stopped praying." Her mother was crying out loud now. 17 years, and her daughter had been trapped, unseen, unheard, but alive. In spirit, in space, somewhere only God could reach. She called a pastor. He arrived within the hour. He read the journal silently, then said something she would never forget. "Your daughter wasn't taken by man. She was caught between realms, and your prayers, they kept her spirit from fading." That night, the pastor, the mother, and the father joined hands in Clara's room. They didn't pray for answers. They prayed for release. And as they said, "Amen," a gust of wind tore through the room. Though every window was shut, the light bulb flickered, and from the far corner of the room, they heard it again. A whisper, soft, clear, hopeful. "Keep reading, Mom. There's more." The journal became her sanctuary. Every line, every page felt like a breath from Clara's soul. It was no longer a collection of memories. It was a conversation across realms. She turned to the next entry. "They call this place the Veil. It's not life, it's not death, it's waiting. Some here are silent, others scream, but I only sing." Her mother paused. Clara had always sung to calm herself down as a child, worship songs, lullabies, especially the ones she used to sing before bedtime. She flipped the page. Last night I sang Oceans and the darkness trembled. Then something incredible happened. The light expanded. The next words were underlined 3 times. The more I worship, the smaller the shadows become. It wasn't just a journal. It was a weapon, a testament of spiritual survival. The pastor returned the next day with others, intercessors, prophets, people who had seen things the world doesn't believe in. They read the journal together. They anointed the room with oil. They worshipped. They fasted. They declared scriptures. Then something new began to happen. Each night at 3:17 a.m., the exact time Clara disappeared, the house would shift. The temperature would drop. The lights would flicker. The pages of the journal would move by themselves. And new words began to appear, not written with ink, but burned in with light. I am close. Don't stop. God is unraveling the veil. Each message felt stronger, more urgent, more full of divine electricity. This was no longer about grief. This was a war for one soul, and heaven was fighting back. The nights grew heavier. The atmosphere in Clara's room no longer felt merely mysterious. It felt charged, like 2 worlds were colliding in one sacred space. Sometimes when they prayed, the air would hum, like something invisible vibrating just beyond their reach. Then the attacks began. It started small. Clara's mother would wake with scratches down her arms. Bibles would fall off shelves. The oil they used in prayer would spill without being touched. Once, while singing in worship, her voice was cut off mid-note, as if a hand had seized her throat, though no one was near. The pastor was clear. There is resistance. Clara's presence threatens the forces that claimed this space, but they can't stop what God has already begun. The family refused to back down. They fasted for 7 days. On the 7th night, something happened. The journal burned, not with fire, but with light. Glowing words seared themselves into the last empty page. No pen, no ink, just radiance. Tonight, they will come for me, but I am not afraid. The room is full of angels. They are waiting. Worship louder than the shadows. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the house shook. Not a tremor, not a gust, a spiritual quake. Every picture frame fell. The lights burst. A blinding wind whipped through the room. And then, silence. Total, weightless, eternal, still. And in that silence, a sound emerged. Footsteps, soft, real, approaching. The mother turned, and there, on the threshold of the room, stood Clara. But she was not 14. She looked 14, and infinitely older at the same time, eyes like windows to another world. She opened her mouth, and all she said was, "You found me." No one moved. Clara stood in the doorway, wrapped in a soft light, as if she had been carved from the very silence that had haunted the house for 17 years. Her mother dropped to her knees. Her breath caught. Her heart stopped. Tears ran down her face before her voice could even form words. "Clara, is it really you?" Clara nodded slowly, but it wasn't just a nod of recognition. It was a nod that carried the weight of another world. She walked into the room, barefoot, graceful, as if time itself bent around her. She placed her hand on the journal. It pulsed with warmth. This saved me," she said softly. "Every prayer, every word, every tear you cried, it all reached me." The pastor watched silently, tears in his eyes. "It's real," he whispered. "The veil, the separation, it's real." Clara sat on the bed where she had once disappeared. Her father stepped in, shaking, overwhelmed. How did you survive?" Clara looked at him. Her voice was fragile but steady. "I didn't survive. I was sustained. I was between places, neither dead nor fully alive. It was like a prison of fog. But every time you prayed, a door opened. Every time you sang, the shadows lost strength. And when you refused to stop believing, heaven fought for me." Her mother covered her mouth in awe. "You were never gone." Clara reached out and took her hand. "I was never alone." That night, no one slept. They worshipped. They cried. They stood in the center of a miracle. But something strange happened just before sunrise. Clara stood at the window. staring into the horizon. She whispered, "It's not finished yet." The house was filled with joy, yes, but underneath it, a quiet trembling. Clara's return wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far greater and far more dangerous. That morning she didn't eat. She didn't rest. Instead, she sat with the journal, flipping through its pages like someone searching for a prophecy yet to unfold. Her mother noticed the distant look in her eyes. "Clara, what's wrong?" Clara didn't speak at first. Then, softly, "They didn't let me go. They were forced to." The room went still. "God broke their grip," she continued, "but they're still watching, still waiting. And before I can be free, I have to finish something." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded page, burnt at the edges, soft with age. It wasn't from the journal. It was something else. Something given to her inside the veil. Written in gold ink, barely legible, it read, "A door was opened through prayer, but a soul must walk it shut." "There's one more child," she said, "trapped, lost, like I was." The pastor stepped forward, heart racing. "You're saying you have to go back?" Clara nodded. Her father shouted, "No!" But Clara placed her hands on both of theirs and whispered, "God didn't save me just for me. He saved me to save another." That night, they prepared for spiritual war. They worshipped, they fasted, they prayed in tongues for hours. And as midnight struck, Clara lay down in the exact spot where she had vanished 17 years earlier. Her final words before closing her eyes, "If I don't return, don't weep. Just know that I finished what God began." And then, the lights dimmed, the air thickened, and Clara slipped into stillness. Her breath was shallow, her pulse slowed, her body remained, but her spirit, gone. The room was silent again, but this time, it wasn't grief that filled the air. It was reverence. Clara's body lay motionless but peaceful, her chest rising and falling in slow rhythm as if caught between heartbeats. Her mother didn't cry. Her father didn't plead. The pastor raised his eyes to heaven and simply whispered, "God, complete what you started." In the spirit, Clara was no longer in the room. She stood at the edge of something vast, a place darker than where she had been before. A world not just of shadows, but of sorrow. She could feel it. Another child, younger, afraid, alone. She followed the sound of quiet sobbing down an invisible corridor, her way lit by something not of this world. With every step she whispered, "God is with you. You are not forgotten. You are not alone." Suddenly, a wall of darkness rose before her. Not a place, a presence. It spoke without words. It was rage. It was despair. It was ancient. But Clara didn't flinch. She lifted her voice and sang. The same worship song she sang as a child, Oceans. As the melody rose, the darkness cracked, split, screamed. And behind it, curled in the corner, was a little girl, no older than 8, holding a broken doll and sobbing. Clara knelt. "I know what it feels like to be lost, but someone is praying for you. Right now, God has sent me." The girl opened her eyes wide with disbelief. "My name is Lily," she whispered. "I've been here so long." Clara reached out her hand. "Then let's go home." They stood together, and in that moment a rush of divine light engulfed them both, bright, pure, unstoppable. In the natural world, Clara's body suddenly gasped. Her mother screamed. Her eyes flew open, and she wasn't alone. Next to her, lying on the bed, was another child. Real, alive, shaking, crying, whispering, "Is this Earth?" The room exploded into shouts and sobs. Clara's parents fell to their knees, overcome. The pastor trembled, speechless, as he stared at the second child. Lily curled beside Clara, her eyes wide and shimmering with tears. She was real, not a vision, not a dream, flesh and bone. Lily clung to Clara as if she were the only thing anchoring her to this world. And maybe she was. Clara sat up, exhausted but radiant. Her face glowed with something not human. Peace, divine clarity. A fire that had passed through darkness and emerged stronger. She was alone, Clara said, buried deep, deeper than I had ever been. But her mother never stopped praying. Everyone fell silent. Clara turned to the pastor. "Find her. Her name is Maria. She lives 3 towns from here. She's still praying." He didn't ask how she knew. He didn't have to. An hour later, they found Maria through an old missing persons database. The picture of Lily was there, missing for 9 years, disappeared from her bedroom. No evidence, no explanation. The authorities couldn't believe it. No signs of aging, no malnourishment. Lily looked like she had vanished just days ago, but she remembered everything. "I was in the dark," she whispered to the officer. "I could hear people cry, but I couldn't cry back until I heard someone singing. A girl." She lit up everything. The house became a sanctuary. People came from miles away, not just to meet Clara and Lily, but to feel the atmosphere. It was charged, holy, like something sacred had broken through the barrier of the ordinary. Reporters came, scientists, skeptics, priests, and all of them left, changed. Because this wasn't just a story of loss and return. It was a story of warfare, worship, and wonder, of what happens when faith doesn't quit, when mothers pray through silence, when God fights battles no eye can see. It was the first time in 17 years that Clara's house felt light, not just lit by sunlight, lit by something sacred. A weight had lifted. The walls that once echoed grief now vibrated with praise. People arrived from all over. Some brought sick relatives, some brought journals, some just sat in silence, tears running down their faces because they felt it. This house had become a gate, a place where the veil between heaven and earth had thinned and opened. Clara stood at the center of it all, no longer just the girl who vanished. Now a voice of warning and of hope. She didn't seek fame. She didn't chase platforms. But when she spoke, even the air seemed to listen. "There are others," she said. "People lost between places, not always physically but spiritually. Caught in grief, trauma, guilt, addiction. Trapped in invisible prisons. They need worship. They need prayer. They need someone to believe that even the darkest silence can still be pierced by a whisper from God." Lily's reunion with her mother was broadcast worldwide. No one could explain it. No one could replicate it. But no one could deny it. 2 girls, gone, returned, forever marked by a God who listens in silence and speaks through the impossible. Clara still sleeps with her Bible open to Psalm 91. She still sings, and every night at 3:17 a.m. she kneels at her window, eyes closed, and whispers, "If there's someone still out there, I'm still here, and so is God." And somewhere, maybe closer than we know, a flicker of light answers back.